Well, it's that time again. Time to talk about what's on my mind, and what's on my mind today is the Burnt Peanut and Ironmouse. Now, some of you may know that the Streamer Awards happened recently, and why anyone would care remains beyond me. This is not a legitimate award, legitimately voted on, and representing anything but the whims of a clique of snooty LA/Austin streamers who alternate between sniffing each other's farts, glazing Hassan Piker, and putting down anyone who isn't in their pathetic little crowd. Nowhere is this more apparent than the award for the best VTuber, given to the Burnt Peanuts. This is notable not only because the community was mocked by the presenter, but it was given to someone who not only denies being a VTuber, but has taken pot shots at the VTuber community both before and after the event. Now, said community has been throwing a rather unhealthy conniption fit since the awards ceremony, and I honestly do not understand it. These are people who are, for some strange reason, trying to earn the affection of an audience who doesn't like them, and, as evidenced by the show and who was chosen to win, doesn't want them around. I've long ago learned that it's best to stay away from people who only put up with you out of some sense of obligation. As the old saying goes, don't go where you're tolerated, go where you're celebrated. While this is something that should be obvious to most people, the online reaction shows that there are more than a few people who only see validation in being noticed by the so-called mainstream, who, as a side note, aren't even mainstream outside of the Twitch landscape. Now, not only has this created a blind spot where people forget about what actually matters, the people in the actual audience who care, it also lends credibility to a show that is little more than a back-patting exercise for Twitch's clique, something that Asmongold brought to bear when he challenged QT Cinderella to show proof that the awards weren't rigged. For those curious, QT Cinderella did not take Asmon up on his offer, and there can only be one reason why. At the end of the day, this is a show meant only to glorify an insular group of Twitch's elites, and will never accept anyone from the outside, especially those from weird, quote-unquote, subcultures like VTubing. If you're not part of the in-crowd, you should accept it and move on. One need only look at the success of rappers like Insane Clown Posse and Twisted. They never gave themselves up to the mainstream music industry, and yet have enjoyed long, fruitful careers with large, dedicated fan bases that they in turn dedicate themselves to. This is the path that any niche should take, and the only way to keep a culture going. Now, this brings me to Ironmouse, who had a run-in with a couple of IRL streamers, namely Ray and Rakai. It's worth noting that this script originally said obnoxious IRL streamers, but I felt it unnecessary to say the same thing twice. See, I've learned from the Bonnie Blue video. Anyway, while she was seemingly completely casual and chill, despite being yelled at by these two single-cell organisms, she would later complain that she was shaking and uncomfortable with the encounter. In response, Ray actually showed some maturity that I didn't expect, essentially apologizing and promising never to see her again. Rakai's response, on the other hand, was typical dipshit IRL streamer behavior, and was unsurprising from someone who was essentially gifted a career by someone in the Twitch in-crowd. That is, of course, another story for another day. Now, back to Ironmouse. While she may claim otherwise, between giving her blessing to Burnt Peanut and entertaining these children, she's showing a general lack of conviction and need to appease people. Granted, her boyfriend Connor is also close to Hassan, so that may explain her instinct toward appeasement and hesitance to rock the boat. But it goes back to what I was saying before. You see, the black community has a useful term for a situation like this: the house nigga. The term derives from the days of slavery, where certain black slaves would try to get in good with their masters so they could work inside the house as opposed to out in the fields. Basically, they tried to fit in with their white masters by being extra sycophantic. Today, of course, it refers to black people who go out of their way to ingratiate themselves with whites who may not care for them in either case. This, I feel, is what Ironmouse is doing here. She's being, for lack of a better term, the house Vtuber for the Twitch clique, which not only exposes her to discomfort and disrespect, but does nothing to advance the acceptance of VTubing. Now, I do not believe that gatekeeping is a good idea. Without new blood, cultures die. That's simple. That anyone should understand. However, it's worth remembering that there is a difference between the person who wants to experience a culture and the colonizer who seeks to change it. The Streamer Awards are a prime example of what happens when the colonizer is pandered to, rather than the community. Don't go where you're tolerated, but where you're celebrated. And don't put stock in award shows that are so rigged they might as well have been booked by Vince Russo. God bless you, and I'll see you all soon for more of the System Shock playthrough.
My shit's for killers with the twisted tabs on their backs. My shit's for killers who walk around with the axe. My shit's for killers screaming I would rather die than see you motherfuckers doing MTV Live. You can keep the mainstream life and all the hoes. I'm steady cussing in videos for juggalos. I'm underground where the dead don't sleep. Keep us a secret to the world and watch the posse increase. So if you feel me, won't you bury me alive?